Hello again, everybody. This is Dave Reynolds from the Journal-Star Sports Department, welcoming you to another edition of the Journal-Star podcast. Our guests today, former Bradley Braves, Jeremy Crouch and Danny Adams. Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
You probably can all guess why they are here today. The last team that made it to the NCAA Tournament since the Braves clinched a spot winning the Valley Tournament last weekend. And your team in 2006, 13 years ago, first of all, 13 years. That's been a while. And you guys are
It's dating us a little bit now.
dating me too. Yeah. So I was still covering the team. But let's just start with there. What's been going on in your life since then? I know you guys weren't done with Bradley at that point. You still had time left to play. But just take me through your lives. After Bradley basketball. I know you're both are gainfully employed now and have families.
Thankfully.
Yeah. My wife and I just had our fourth child last Saturday, so we have a very busy and active house. I'm a teacher at Pekin Community High School. I teach economics, and I'm a high school golf coach. I'm the varsity head coach in golf and the varsity assistant coach in basketball. I've been enjoying doing all of that, especially getting to spend time with my family and a lot of support and a lot of fun. So, yeah.
Myself, me and my wife have a 2-year-old son named Beckett. We're expecting twins, hopefully beginning of June. So, been very active too. Going to be more active. But I work for Stryker Orthopedic. It's a medical sales company here. I deal with the trauma side. So I do a lot of time inside the OR, helping surgeons, customers, hopefully fix broken bones.
Okay. Well, let's move on to basketball. I'm sure you guys are excited about the current Braves and what they've done. I'm sure you followed them this season. A little different team than you guys, but kind of a similar road to the NCAA Tournament. You guys had some struggles like they had the first couple months of the season, and then man, you both took off in February and never looked back. And let's kind of start there. What similarities do you see between you guys and them? And let's just talk about this current team and what their chances are going forward.
I think you touched on the big part of it. I think, I don't know too many teams that have this steady uphill climb of success throughout a season. I think one of the nice parts about that group that was different from some of the other years that we were there is we didn't have any major injuries that year, especially in that stretch run and into the Valley, late in the Valley season and then into the Valley Tournament. Obviously, there's a lot of adversity that happened, I think, in late January for both teams. I guess it was a little earlier for this current year's team. Mm-hmm. But I think there's some similarities too with a kid like JJ who came on late. I think Lundy came on a little bit later too. Mm-hmm. So I think there's some similarities throughout the whole roster. I think the roster construction's obviously very different. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the path to get there, I think you're 100% right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and add to that.
No, and absolutely. I mean, and I think like us talking about the struggles early, but the same size-wise, we're a little bit of a bigger team, but we all hung our hat on defense, mm-hmm. right? And I think that's what Coach Wardle has got this group to really buy into, and obviously that's what showed in that championship mm-hmm. game is mm-hmm. that's what got them back and eventually won the ship. So, I mean, once you do that, it shows you where your basis and what your core values are, and that's what they've done. Same thing what we did.
And you guys made contributions that year. You were probably better in succeeding years in terms of what you were able to do with the team. But you mentioned JJ Twy, and I've got a pretty vivid memory of that team, and they were 13-9 after losing to Indiana State. I'm sure you guys remember that time. And then you got to go to Illinois State after that, and things looked kind of tough for you guys. I mean, there were high expectations that season. You started off by blowing out DePaul at DePaul. I mean, mm-hmm. we all thought, whoa, what do we have here? And it's such a great game up there. And then
that was without Patrick and Will.
Exactly. Too. Yeah. And then you got those guys back, mm-hmm. and it was just the sky was the limit in a lot of people's eyes. And then you hit some skids, and obviously the Valley was very, very tough that year. I mean, you get 4 teams to the NCAA tournament. easily could add 5. Missouri State doesn't go with a 21 RPI. Creighton, I think, won 20 games, and
Southern was tough. They were ranked most of the year.
There were no weak teams in the league that year. A different story this year. The Valley is all sort of even, I would guess. I guess parity is ruled this year. So in that sense, I guess a big difference. But what have you guys seen? You mentioned the defense this year. What else have you seen out of this team that just brings a smile to your face? You think, oh man, that's the right way to play basketball.
I kind of think it's, I'll take it back to kind of what we were, you go through those struggles, but then you become a band of brothers. You know what I mean? I think you guys talked about Tony Bennett. He told we had a team meeting. Those were players only, and it was kind of like a coming to Jesus. Everybody got a lot of stuff off their chest, and we knew that if we were going to go to war, we were going to go to war together. And we had some tough practices, and I think kind of this, similar to what this team has done, you can see they're a very tight knit group. You know what I mean? They probably do a lot of things together like we used to do. So I mean I like seeing that, because they're all in, and they're all in together. And when you win and when you lose, you're going to win and lose together.
I think obviously Dante was the only one that left, right?
Yes.
Obviously he's a great player, and I think it speaks to his impact still, I think, on this group. I think some of the forwards, the 4 or 5 guys, I think are playing really well, partly because of his impact last year. But I think just the carryover from last year was very similar to our group too. They have a lot of guys that played last year, and they'll have a similar story next year as well. So I just think the continuity of it really helps. I think the coaching staff, both then and now, have a very clear path on what they think is the best plan to win, and I think the kids have really bought into it. I've been very fortunate the last couple of summers to be around doing the Always a Brave thing. They work really hard, and they have a very clear plan on what areas of weakness to get better on. The kids buy into it, and man, they work really hard. So this isn't an accident. This I don't think is a surprise to this group. I think this is a part, what they've expected, because they put in the work to get there.
And you mentioned the Always a Brave. Such a cool thing to be able to see that link, I guess, when you guys came back and you're able to interact with those kids and scrimmage with them a little bit, and for them to see sort of their predecessors and knowing what you guys accomplished, and it's just that bond, I guess, that you both wore that Bradley uniform, but that had to have been cool for everybody concerned. Yeah, especially that first year, when I think this, a large majority of this group were freshmen that year. The first year we did it, man, they were very respectful, but Coach Worrell had them fired up to play against us, and they did not back down. I mean, they came after us, which obviously helped us prepare and do things like that. But you could see the mentality there. You could see they bought into what Coach Wardle and the staff was trying to get them to buy into, just the mentality on how to play and how to approach the game. And I think that has carried over, and they've built on that every year. And I think that's something that hopefully we'll continue to build. Any additional thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I think, I'm just reiterating exactly what JC said. This guy they work hard, and it's very evident, and this happening is not by mistake, because they've worked to it. Yeah. Let's back up to what you said a minute ago about the team meeting in your season that came. I don't know, did it come after that Indiana State game? It was right around, Wichita at home. Yeah. Okay. I mean, we got beat bad, I think, that night. Yeah. What's your recollection? I know sometimes, I mean, at the time, everybody talked generally about it, but we're 13 years later. We could probably be a little more candid. But who were? I imagine Tony was pretty outspoken. I imagine, from what he said, most guys chipped in with I think everybody in the room said something. Yeah. I think literally we went around the circle. Yeah. We just went around the circle. This is players only, right? Absolutely. And the biggest takeaway that I tell my high school kids this story every now and then, Brandon Heemskirk to me said the best thing. He obviously he didn't play a ton. Patrick
played a lot. But I remember he looked Patrick in the eye and he apologized for not pushing him hard enough in practice. And that type of mentality, I think, really started to seep in, the selflessness of the group and kind of what you were talking about earlier. Eventually, at some point, we all just kind of bought into it. Like, it's not about me.
Exactly.
It's not about my numbers, where I'm going to do after. I mean, we had a lot of seniors, I think, when we keep playing. It's not about that. It's about, how can I impact the program in a positive way? And I think that really set the tone. And I love Brandon. I know everybody a part of that group does. And I think that's the comment that really sticks with me, because I think after that he made it a point. Patrick really took off after that. I think Brandon has a big part of that, taking some ownership in that, and again, just establishing that selflessness of what it takes to be a part of a team that can really take off.
Similarity in the sense of you're both big underdogs going into the NCAA tournament. You guys were a 13 seed, and you ended up playing Kansas that first round. I can't think of anybody that circled your name on the bracket. I mean, a lot of people. I think you surprised the nation that day playing the Jayhawks, and not only playing them as tough as you did, but to be able to pull out that win. I mean, and you were in control the whole day. And let's just start with that game. I mean, just your memories of that day, and I mean, it was a pretty special day. You had the Bradley fans never sat down for 1 second, from the time they walked in there. I mean, you really had great support as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, JC, you're probably the same way. You still remember it, and watching these games and watching these guys, you still get the chills and memories. Obviously, these guys brought all those memories back from Selection Sunday. And then now just remembering trying to prepare for a top team in the country. You see them playing nationally day in and day out, and they get all the coverage. But the preparedness, right? I mean, knowing that, you are the underdog. Nobody's circling Bradley in the brackets. They're not picking you, but knowing that you have that mentality, like, hey, they're going to get something they're not going to expect. And I think I always remember Coach Les saying, you know what, we're going to go in and we're going to throw the first punch, we're going to throw the second punch, and we're not going to stop swinging. And that's kind of what our mentality was. And, we kind of hit them on the jaw, and then I think they kind of were stumbling back, and we just kept swinging. And to keep buying in and next man up, and everybody kept stepping up. And then to have the support from the university and those fans, like you said, that didn't sit down was just, I mean, I get chills sitting here just thinking about trying to relive it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the heart, starting it all from the beginning was we had that awkward week. The Valley starts early, or finishes early, I should say. So there's that week between that and Selection Sunday where you don't know if
at least this team knew they were in.
We didn't know we were going to be in. We didn't know what we were preparing for, really. So that week was kind of hard, not knowing and kind of trying to figure out if we were going to be in and all that stuff. But I think, our mentality that game was we're going to guard them and we're not going to let them do anything easy. I think the coaching staff had a great game plan going into it, and I thought, we executed it to the best of our ability. And I think we really frustrated them. And I think that was true in the Pitt game as well, where, we, like Danny mentioned earlier, we hung our hat on defense. And we really took them out of their comfort zone. We took them out of the things that they like to do. And when you can do that, when a team struggles on offense, now as a coach, it really is evident to see it happen. When a team struggles on offense, that takes away what they're doing a little bit defensively. They get a little deflated, and if you never let them get going offensively, sometimes it's a little easier to control the game, and I thought that's where we had most of our success.
And Will Franklin hitting that shot right before the halftime
That's really,
buzzer.
Honestly, the only memory that I have of that whole game. Really,
he banked it in, didn't he, from like 30 feet?
I remember I was on the sideline, like, hey, pass right here. And he was like, he went up, I was like, all right, please go in. And that thing goes in. Then you pop that bubble out of Kansas.
And you put you up by 10, I think, at halftime. Yeah. So, I mean, what a momentum builder to go into the locker room with. So, and then you mentioned Pitt 2 days later. Again, Bradley had decided underdog, and they had a great team. They had a very athletic team. But Patrick had decided this was going to be his day. 28 points, I think.
Yeah.
He just
didn't they have another big?
A guy who played in the NBA.
Yeah.
Gray was his last name.
Yeah.
Aaron Gray.
Yeah, Aaron Gray.
Yeah.
And Patrick took it to him that day. I don't know what other memories you guys have of that game.
Again, my memory is just in the preparation to it. I remember sitting in the hotel room watching lots of video. They were really talented, but again, our mindset was the same. It had been the same for a month. You know, it was guard them, take their first and second options away, and then just we were so talented offensively. We had so many different ways to score, so many different lineups we could throw out.
So athletic.
Yeah, so I think
you really were.
When we bought into the defensive end, and more than that, I think we had kind of bought into the value of it, but really gotten confidence in that this works. We can guard, we can frustrate teams, and then we can score. I think that really carried over, and it was the same philosophy. But Patrick was awesome that day. He was awesome.
Yeah, he was great. And, I thought Tony Bennett was amazing as well. Like, he was hitting shots, the step back, and one thing that I remember too leading up to these games, like, you have the day in between, you have a shoot around, and fans are invited to come in and watch. And as serious as Coach Les always was, and he was all about the game plan and preparation for this, and always doing our scouting reports, I always remember, like, he had fun that day. You know what I mean? Like, I remember letting Boogie jump over him and dunk. You know what I mean? Like, it was just living in the moment as well. And keeping it fresh and keeping it fun for us, but then knowing when we needed to lock down and focus on our scouting report. And coaches did a really good job of giving those details. Lots of film watching.
And then at the end of the Pitt game, a moment that will live forever in Bradley lore, you guys go up in the stands and thank your fans. And, I mean, what a special moment that was. And well, first tell me your memories, then I want to tell you a funny thing after.
They certainly earned it. The fans were great. You mentioned it. They were up the whole game. They were into it. There were so many of them, which I think is something that could be an advantage for Bradley when we go to Des Moines, being so close.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think there's a chance that we could really rally behind this team and get a lot of people there. I just remember the elation of the moment, finding my parents in the stands. Just stuff like that. Nothing, I don't think I ever saw, I know there's pictures of it, so I've seen it, but I don't think I've ever seen, I don't remember seeing the guys jump up on the platform. But, yeah, just finding my parents and family and friends that have made the trip, trying to say thank you.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, that first, hug from your parents and everything, because, there's a lot that goes into it, and as much as it goes in for us, it goes in for them as well. You know what I mean? So that's a really incredible embrace after you kind of accomplish something. But then just everybody grabbing you and high-fiving, and just seeing the smiles on just the fans' faces that have been waiting for some sort of a moment like this to put Bradley kind of back on the map. It's really cool. And then obviously, you bring us back to kind of relive it and everything. I appreciate it for sure. You know what I mean? It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And the memory I have of that going up in the stands moment was in the post-game interview. And, of course, this was played at Auburn Hills, Michigan, outside of Detroit. A writer from a Detroit paper asked, and I remember Patrick and Sellis, and I can't remember who else, Tony, I think, were up on the podium. And he talked about he asked, what is it that you guys thought about when the fans started coming up in the stands? He said, us around here, we get really nervous when players go up in the stands. And I remember the kids just burst out laughing because it was really fresh on the heels of, refresh my memory, who was the NBA player from the Pistons that did that?
It was the Pacers and the Pistons.
Yeah, and he went up in the stands.
Artest.
And Artest, yeah.
There you go.
And I think the writer said, we had an Artest moment. Yeah. Did you guys think about that at all? And it was just an hilarious moment because everybody got it, and that was my memory of that.
That's
obviously,
that's fun.
But anyway, moving on past that season, you guys weren't done at Bradley, and the next season, Patrick went to the NBA, and you guys reinvented yourselves as a team. I mean, that was, I think, for all the things that Jim Les did at Bradley, that was the thing that impressed me most, was how he went from a team that was a pretty big team, you know, and a post-based team, to a three-point shooting team, totally perimeter-oriented team with Zach in the middle. And that next year, I mean, you guys set all kinds of, 349 threes, I think.
Put it up, didn't we?
Shattered the school record, and I think the Valley record. And preface that whole thing for me as far as going into the season and how he prepared you guys for that total change of playing style.
I think one of his greatest strengths as a coach is individual player development. Yeah. I feel like I got a little better every year, in large part because of him and the coaching staff, not just him. But I think he has a very clear again idea on what he thinks is successful and how you can transform your game and add things to it to make you a little bit better. Especially, I think he's got a good read on what the league was doing, how the league might move forward, and I know he spent some time with Coach D'Antoni down in Phoenix to get this idea on how to play. I remember an edit they put together in the fall, like here's our vision, but in order to do that, you guys have to buy in. And I remember we had to make like 53s at the end of every practice.
Wow!
And like it was a total buy-in. This is how we're going to do it. Yep. It's one thing to shoot them; you got to make them in order for it to be effective. And I think we had some very talented guards, but I don't know if we'd have been able to do it without Zach. His ability to play inside and out, to get in and out quickly, his big frame to set good screens, and his ability to roll and draw defenders to the basket really opened up a lot. And so, and obviously Daniel's a special player that can make everybody else better too. So we had all the makings of a very good basketball team. That was probably the most fun I've ever had playing that year. Just the style of the play and the buy-in from the guys, coming off with the confidence of a Sweet 16 run. It was like a perfect storm, and we had a lot of fun that year.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I was reiterate the whole individual workouts, the summer workouts, buying in, doing the things that Coach saw that vision for. We did things individually, and then as far as he collectively brought it all together, is just like JC said. He had that vision of where he wanted to take us, and then us buying in. But it was a fun group of guys. I mean, I think if you ask JC, you ever seen a greener light, Coach?
No.
I mean, he said put it up, and we didn't hesitate a lot of times. What I mean? But as much as we all wanted to shoot and had that green light, I mean, a very unselfish group. The ball moved a lot, and it was next man up to get a good shot. And Zach's athleticism and love to play in there was fantastic. And we weren't big, because I was telling somebody the other day how, Zach, I think, led the country in fouls. You know what I mean? So then it was like me and JJ were the 4 and the 5.
Oh, I remember that.
We're 6'4", playing against all these 6'10" guys and having to bruise them up a little bit. But, we went 5 small, and we could all – I mean, it was tough. We were tough to guard then on the other end as well. Yeah.
And another game I remember in your careers, particularly you, Jeremy, the game at Creighton. The 100, what was the score? 110 to 109.
That was my senior year, actually, I think.
Yeah, the following year.
With overtime or double overtime
a couple overtimes. Yeah. And it wasn't on TV anywhere.
No.
And I remember thinking man, I got to really paint this picture well because nobody's seeing this. Yeah. And I think I remember writing the greatest game nobody saw.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it was just, both teams going at it. Was it the Witter kid from Creighton had 40-some
style
points?
On both sides.
Yeah.
Coach Altman had kind of bought into it. I think maybe they had an injury or two that year, and he bought into. I mean, I remember they abandoned their offense, which he's pretty famous for, which is kind of a 4-high type of a look with the one post. But he went totally away from that and just ran ball screens for that point guard.
Yeah.
What would you say his name was?
Witter.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh yeah.
And he hit some
43.
tough shots.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't easy. Daniel's a great defender, and we threw all kinds of guys at him. Changed up our pick and roll defense, so he just had a day where he just made them all.
Did you have 30 that night?
I don't know.
You and Daniel, one of you had 29 and one of you had 30. I think I remember which one.
There were a lot of points. That was a fun game to play, and at that place too, Creighton's arena is so
loud and big.
It's one.
And I think the fans appreciate it. I mean, it was a great show.
Yeah, it was. It was fun.
It's fantastic.
So.
Well, I wanted to wrap this up with just some thoughts going forward. Des Moines is 3 days away. The Braves playing Thursday afternoon. are you guys planning to go? And if not, I'm sure you're going to be watching.
I'm just working on a ticket right now. Absolutely. I'm definitely going to be there, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, excited for them. Looking forward to, seeing what they can put out there. You know what I mean? Swing, keep on swinging.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they're going to need to.
They have a great following,
the Spartans.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've got Spartans. Obviously, Izzo's a Hall of Fame coach. He's going to have his guys prepared. I mean, but they come off with a tough Big Ten tournament. So, I mean, that's the legs, some injuries going on. So, don't ever count us out, I'd say.
Yeah. And like you said, Bradley's had 10, 11 days off. That's a good opportunity to get your bodies repaired after a long season, but especially after 3 brutal games in St. Louis.
I know.
So, and I don't know, I talked to Coach about this yesterday. I mean, there's a little concern, too, that you're used to playing a couple times a week, and now all of a sudden you're going this long break.
There's a fine line between staying prepared and being loose, but also feeling healthy and get some fresh legs and stuff like that. I don't expect Michigan State to take Bradley lightly at all. I think they feel a little slighted that they slid down to a 2 seed, and so it's going to be a battle. But I think Coach Wardle and the staff is going to have a great plan. I think the kids are going to play hard, and like I say, I wouldn't count Bradley out ever. So,
and like Brian said, Michigan State plays the way Bradley really aspires to play.
Right.
So it should be, a physical battle for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
that wraps up the show today. Thanks, guys, for stopping in. Really appreciate you having and reliving all those great moments from the Sweet 16 days. We look forward to Bradley's next appearance in the NCAA Tournament on Thursday against Michigan State. Thanks again, guys, and so long for now.